you'll have met Katrina through email probably. But well, I won't speak for you, Katrina. Is that all right? If you just do you want to just sort of quickly just do a quick introduction? Is that all right?
Yeah, I think I've met all of you via email or not on a Teams call. As you know, I do all the admin for the PG cert, so any problems, issues you have, you can always come to me if you need anything resending. If you can't get hold of your assessor, yeah, I'm your person. Just come to me.
Perfect. Thank you, Katrina. Yeah, Alex, I'm one of the assessors. I do a fair bit of tutoring and teaching for MPD, and work with the universities in different formats really. So yes, so I'm just going to share a couple of tools and techniques with you that will hopefully be helpful. Right, just let me share my screen. Hopefully that'll work. All right, there we go. Critical writing, a quick introduction, and it will be it will be hasty. I think because we're such a small group, I know we had until two scheduled in, but it won't take that long actually. Um, okay, so all right. So the overview of today, that's Hegel, by the way. So Hegel was the guy who coined this idea, the dialectic, which is the essential thing that I'm going to talk about today. So what we're going to do is identify how critical writing can be a useful academic and professional skill. So this isn't just for writing assignments. It is a kind of a skill for life, I would say. It's really critical thinking. It's a critical thinking technique that I think is really useful when you're kind of even negotiating with your loved ones on where to go on holiday and that type of thing. It plays a role in actually how you construct your arguments in clever ways. So I'm going to introduce this tool. The tool is the dialectic, or it's sometimes known as dialectical thinking, developed by Hegel. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you just to play with it a little bit. As a group of three, I'll go quiet for a little bit, and I'll ask you just to apply it and put it into practice, and just to see what you make of it, really. So that's where we'll be in about 40 minutes time. Stop me at any point, or put any questions in the chat, however you'd prefer to communicate. All totally fine, whatever works best for you. So there we go. So what it relates to, so life isn't black and white, it's all sorts of shades of grey. Nice little quote there. And I think that is true when it comes to academic work, that we are very often, particularly in the subject matters that we teach, so that, leadership, strategy, all of these sorts of topics, they don't necessarily have right and wrong answers. It's about how we navigate through it and look at pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses. It's how we, it's how we balance different possible answers and come to some sort of conclusion. We're not dealing in clear certainties like you are, for example, with maths or physics or that type of thing. This is, we're in the grey, and I think that that's really where critical writing sits. Okay. So this is the dialectic, dialectical thinking. So you have a point of view. You have an argument. You have a point to make, and often, almost always, there will then be an alternative point of view, the counterpoint, the other perspective. It's a little bit like in court, fortunately, I'm pleased to say I haven't got too much experience of court, but I do quite like a legal drama. And you know how the prosecution will make their case, and then the defense will make their case, and that's essentially debate. It's when we have these two different perspectives, and that is okay. It's okay. And then it's a question of like, well, who puts forward the strongest argument? Is one person right and is one person wrong? Possibly, but very often it's not really as straightforward as that. Where we see this a lot, this is binary thinking. So where we see binary thinking a lot is, you're probably thinking already, things like social media, Twitter, that type of thing, where you just get competing points of view. And as you can see in this little discussion here, there's no nuance. We're definitely not in the grey here. This is kind of that black and white view of the world, right and wrong. I agree, I disagree. I agree, I disagree. this is essentially a binary perspective. And I think, yeah, a lot of the time I mean, Twitter, it's not Twitter anymore, it's X, isn't it? But it's almost constructed to avoid critical thinking, certainly as it used to be when you were only allowed so many characters and that sort of stuff. There's no space for nuance or for depth or for kind of thinking, well, maybe we're both right and we're both wrong. All right, there's very little room for that in modern conversation, particularly in the social media world. But that's ultimately where we need to get to. So what we see a lot of, I think, in the world of social media and whatnot, is clashes of opinion, binary thinking. What we're going to try and get to with the dialectic is to move it forwards, is progress. So what we're going to aim to do here is find a synthesis. And it's synthesis which kind of really takes us into, I would say, the higher level grades when it comes to academic writing. It's not so much a meet in the middle. It's more like if we look at these two different points of view and we look at their strengths and weaknesses and we balance them together, is it possible to come to something which is better than both? Synthesis. So that's progress. So what we're aiming to do here is to put forward a point of view, to then find the opposing point of view, have a bit of a debate, a discussion, looking at pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses, and then hopefully, right, if we're able to do this skillfully, our conclusion will be better than both of those early points of view. That's ultimately where we want to get to with this method. Can I just check, have I explained that all right? I'm going to give you an example in just a moment, but so am I on track so far? Just let me know if this is making sense.
Yeah, this makes sense.
Yeah. Is that all
Yeah.
right so far? Yeah, grand.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're when we're critical writing, what we're doing is when we put forward a point of view, we're then actively looking for alternative perspectives, alternative points of view. And it could be a different theory that's different from the one that we started, or it could be our life experience. Our perspective on things might be different to the theory that we're putting forwards or starting with. So that these different points of view can come from different places. It can be different theories. It can be or it can be a contrast between theory and your practical real life experience. Where those are different, again, it's a perfect opportunity to bring about some synthesis. If we blend the theory with your life experience, and you kind of bring them together and you kind of have a nuanced discussion, is it possible that we're able to come up with something that's better than both? And then we're winning. Then we're kind of, again, it's by being able to do that takes us to that kind of distinction level grade in the assignments. So different perspectives, a reasoned debate, an attempt to get to the truth on a topic, and that's a tall order. I mean, it's whether we ever get, but I think that this is the thing, the important thing is that what we're trying to get to here is the best possible answer that we can, rather than just taking the face thing at first value. Is that right? No, the first thing at face value. So it's our attempt to go a bit deeper to try to get to the best, as close to the truth as we can possibly get on the topic or the issue of the day that we're writing about. So it's a thesis, an antithesis, a synthesis, and then progress. That's the kind of the model that we're looking for. A point of view, the competing point of view, the balancing, the coming together of the two, and then we progress the argument. We come up with something better than where we started. Okay, let me give you an example. Okay, so here's a real life thing. So this, I think, if any of you, if you're doing a leadership assignment, this might be the type of topic that you might look at. So this is I'm just going to kind of deconstruct an example of critical writing for a leadership response. Okay, here's our start point. Many organizations believe that leaders should have a vision, be inspirational and charismatic, and have the ability to align people to their vision. Okay, this is probably, if this is how we leave it, we're probably not quite there for postgraduate writing. What's missing here? I mean, there's nothing wrong with the statement, but if we were just to leave it at that and move on to our next point, what would be the problem with that, do you think, from thinking level 7 postgrad? What's missing here? Yeah, yeah, Kira, please.
Yeah, is there that there's no academic writing or theory backing it up or giving
Yeah,
an opposing view?
exactly. That's right. So all it is, it's an opinion at the moment. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, it's not supported. So again, at the postgrad level, if it was just this, we would probably need a little bit more just to get to the pass mark. So what I'll do now is I'll just add that in. This is the essence of transformational leadership theory, which can be traced to Burns, 1977. So you can see with Burns, 1977, we've got a reference. So it's not just a statement or an opinion. We're supporting it with, in this case, quite a well-respected piece of theory. In his discussion of political leadership, he considers that great political leaders can elevate the aspirations of followers and transform their motivations from basic wants to higher level needs, aspirations, and values. You see what we've done here. We've got a reference for it. It's a quote. We've got a quote in there. Very nice. All right. So now we're at pass. This is postgrad. Now at postgrad level, we're into the 50s. I would say that, if we were to leave it at this point, we're probably in the 55% sort of range. We're still not critical writing though. All right. So it's nicely referenced and it's supported, which is really, really good, but we've still got a little way to go. So I'll keep going and I'll build it up. So let's see if we can get it up. Let's see how we would nudge it up to a higher level grade. Transformational leadership has a wide following, particularly in education, where it's been the dominant concept in training. Another little quote. Sorry, reference. However, Ciampa, 2016, argues that charismatic leaders can have a dark side. This is where stuff gets a bit more interesting. If they become overconfident and refuse to be challenged, they can ultimately disengage their followers. Leaders may be highly charismatic, yet lacking in moral character and primarily interested in self-serving objectives. Another little reference there. So again, we're supporting it as we go, which may lead to disengaged followers or decisions that are not in the best interest of their organization. So can you see what we've got here now is a competing point of view. So now where we are at the moment, we've got the blue arrow and the red arrow. We've got a debate. So now we are, I would say, getting into the 60 threshold. We're kind of getting into the merits realm by not just taking one point of view, but positioning competing perspectives. Blue arrow, red arrow. Okay, again, so hopefully you can see now that we're starting to build up two sides of an argument. So this is, yeah, so suddenly we've got something quite substantial here. And if you can see, for each of the statements, there's a little reference to support it. So again, and again, this is best practice, that if you make a bold statement, if you make an assertion of some sort, ideally, again, at level 7, in the level 7 window, that when you do that, you support it with a reference or something like that. You can also, of course, bring in your own stories and experience, but again, it's just having a bit of a balance. I think it's probably, I'm not quite sure what the ideal split is, but a bit of theory, but also your own experience as well. So by all means, bring that into the discussion. But supporting what we say with references is really important. Just again, if you're looking for higher level grades. Let's keep on going though. Let's see if we can move it up to a distinction. One more paragraph. Antonakis, TED. Okay, so this was a TED talk. Nothing wrong with TED talks and that type of thing. If using different sources is totally fine. Suggests that techniques associated with transformational leadership do increase the engagement of followers. However, if leaders lack a high degree of self-awareness and a strong moral basis, they may ultimately do harm to the organization. And therefore, transformational leadership alone doesn't present a complete solution for leadership development. And we could go on there and say, a little bit about aligning leaders to organizational values and ethics. We could keep on going, I think, and make it even better. But so that last statement there is saying essentially that there are definitely benefits to transformational leadership, but there are shortcomings as well, and it's part of the solution, but there is more to go. This is where we're starting to move to the 70%, distinction threshold. We're kind of looking at that. We're balancing different perspectives and moving towards a conclusion that progresses the argument forwards. Again, let me just quickly check in with everybody and see what you think about that. Or if anyone has any questions about the example that I've just presented and these, how we've built it up just there.
It makes sense to me, thank you.
Okay, that's good, Sally. So you can see how it's been constructed. And again, it's just one method, but I think by following this pattern, if you do it fairly consistently throughout the assignment, that is what will take you to the distinction level grades. Ultimately, if by following this rhythm of an argument, a competing perspective, and then a bit of debate, balancing off between the two, some sort of conclusion, and then we progress to the next point. That's ultimately, if you follow that rhythm fairly consistently, then we're straight up into kind of distinction level grades. And if you read, academic journals or papers on leadership and that type of thing, you'll see that they typically usually follow this rhythm of debate and conclusion, then move on to the next topic. Okay. Let's see how we go with this. What I'd like you to do is have a little discussion, if that's okay. I'd just like you to play with this idea. There's no rights and wrongs here. As I said, we're very much into the grey, but I just thought it would be quite good, rather than it all come from me, if you're happy to do this, to actually just to play with the dialectic, to do a little bit of dialectical thinking. And I'll ask you to do it as a 3, if that's okay. And I think what I'll do is I'll actually put you into a little room so that you can do it, and you've got space to think, essentially. So I'll sort that out in just a second. So I'm just going to go for maximum 10 minutes. What I'd like you to do is look at this statement. Emotional intelligence is a vital attribute for leaders to be successful in today's environment. Discuss. What I'd like you to try and do is find an argument to support it, an argument that goes in the other direction that maybe challenges it, and if possible, see if you can come to a synthesis, a balance between the two. How do we progress the argument forwards? Just as a starter for 10, what I think is the word successful. I think it's really interesting when you look at today's political leaders, particularly the ones which are always on the blooming news. Would you say that they're certainly successful? You could say that they're successful if they're presidents and whatnot, but do they have high levels of emotional intelligence? Question mark. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this in the chat so that it follows you along. If this will let me. Oh no, maybe it won't. Yeah, no, it's not going to let me do it. I'll drop it into the chat once you're into the room. My Zoom sometimes does this when I'm splitting my screens. So what I'll do, put you into a little room if that's right, and I'm just going to give you a few minutes just to play with the idea, a thesis, an antithesis, and a synthesis if you can, and then let's see where we get to with it. Is that okay? Is that all right for everybody?
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect. Yeah. Yep. So just 10 minutes just to play with the idea. Don't worry about trying to get it perfect. It's just see if you can play with the concept. And I don't need you to quickly. I don't need to be Googling, trying to find quotes or anything like that. It's purely about if you can find an argument, that'd be great. Okay, so we're going to okay. Yeah, just try that, and I'll come and drop in the yeah, that's great. So what did you think? Thesis and antithesis first. Where did you get to? Would you mind just again, our kind of blue arrow, red arrow. Where were you with that?
So I'll start, and by all means, if anybody wants to add in. So the first question we had was a question about the question is, what is success? And what does that look like? But that put to one side, we did agree that emotional intelligence was very important as a leader, and having to adapt. However, we, on the antithesis side, said that it can't cloud your judgment. So when it comes to making strategic decisions, you have to start with your facts to make that decision, and can't let your emotional intelligence cloud your judgment. And then we started discussing around how the role of a leader has had to change to be aware of emotional intelligence because of the ever-changing landscape of literally where people are working, expectations of employees and customers. So yeah, they were our conversations.
Yeah, very good. Very, very good. Yeah, that's it. And Yeah, I think I like that point about, if it's like, needing to, you need to work with the facts, evidence, data, that type of thing. And could too much emotional intelligence actually cloud your judgment and set you back? You see, that's a very good antithesis, competing argument. And that's right. Yeah. I was reading some interesting stuff on emotional intelligence, just my sort of general reading and research around the topic, that suggests that actually, when you look at sort of very manipulative people, so people who are Machiavellian, so they manipulate people in ways which aren't always ethical, they're actually very emotionally intelligent because they know what to say to people to get them to do what they want. So it could be that actually emotional intelligence is a necessary element for somebody who's very manipulative. So again, I think it's that question, isn't it, about emotional intelligence? Yes, it has its place. It's definitely important, but actually there are many other skills and considerations that need to be in place as well. And that it kind of doesn't work the other way. You could have someone who's very emotionally intelligent, but someone who's definitely not a great leader, particularly if they are quite Machiavellian and manipulative. So yeah, good. You see, so that's it. Now suddenly that's a really interesting. We've gone a lot further. So if we go from our start point there, emotional intelligence is a vital attribute for leaders to be successful in today's environment. Through this discussion, we've definitely evolved it, haven't we? We've tested it. We've looked at counter arguments, and we've come up with something much better than where we started. That is the thrust of critical writing. That's really where we want to get to with each aspect of each topic that we take on. Put forward a point of view, find an alternative point of view, put them in the washing machine, let them go around a little bit, and then come out with something better, something to see if we can progress things forwards and make progress. Amazing. What else on critical writing? Yeah, the only thing I'd reiterate is, again, just good referencing. If Chester is APA, for whatever reason, I don't know why they're APA, but they are. So it's just making sure that you've got good quotes and references. They don't have to be academic papers, as I said. TED Talks and those sorts of things are really good as well. So drawing on a range of different sources is totally fine, and bringing in your own experience as well. Absolutely, your story, your point of view is absolutely valid in this discussion too. It doesn't all have to be, books and academia. Okay, there we go. That is an introduction to critical writing. We've got a little bit, so we're a little bit ahead, so just because we're a small group, but I just wonder if anyone has any questions at all, for us to pull apart and, that I can answer or that we could discuss. Is there anything, or anything perhaps related to your assignments that we could help you with? Anything at all, really? Just whilst you've got us, and Katrina's on the line as well. So again, if there's anything from a process point of view, Katrina's would be able to jump into. So let me just give you a moment of space. Let's just see if anyone's got anything at all. I'll take that as everyone's all right. I tell you what I'll do. Well, email it in by all means. If there's something which comes to mind after the call and you think, oh, I wish I'd asked that question, because sometimes that's how it is. Just send it in, email it in, and we'll come straight back to you. We can come back with any thoughts. I hope that that's been helpful to get you started with critical writing. So the dialectic, good little method to use. An example and a great discussion there, Sally, that you reflected back really concisely. So that's it, really. That's really what we're looking for in terms of academic writing. So if you don't have any other questions about it, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. That was really useful.
Great, Sally. Thank you. Appreciate you coming along. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Sophie.
Have a lovely weekend.
Thanks,
And
Sophie.
you. Bye.
Thanks.